You wake up when your body is ready. No alarm rings, no schedule forces you out of your warm blanket. For 99% of human history, this was not a comfortable luxury. This was just how every single morning felt for roughly 300,000 years. How did your ancestors actually rest in a world filled with apex predators and freezing nights? Did they really sleep for 8 continuous hours like modern doctors recommend? The short answer is no. Modern sleep is an evolutionary anomaly. Your current bedroom is a sterile, quiet, isolated capsule designed to separate you from the environment. But your brain evolved in a completely different setting. It evolved on the African savanna, inside dark caves and around crackling campfires. Anthropologist Carol Worthman has spent decades studying how humans sleep across different cultures. She discovered that for most of history, sleep was a deeply social, communal, and dynamic event. You never slept alone. You slept surrounded by the sounds of your tribe, breathing, whispering, and moving. Why does this matter today? Because your brain still expects that ancient security. When you feel anxious at night in your quiet room, your brain might actually be looking for the safety of the group. Let us look at the physical evidence left behind in the dirt. In South Africa, at a site called Sibudu Cave, archaeologist Lynn Wadley made an incredible discovery. She found the remains of human bedding dating back 77,000 years. These were not just random piles of leaves. Your ancestors carefully selected specific plants, like the river wild quince. This plant contains natural chemical compounds that repel mosquitoes and other biting insects. They even burned the old bedding periodically to clean the living space. Think about that for a second. 77,000 years ago, humans were already engineering their sleep environment for maximum comfort and health. They understood the biology of pests. How many modern humans know which leaves keep bugs away? The layers of the cave floor tell a story of incredible domestic intelligence. Your ancestors did not just throw themselves onto the bare rock when exhaustion hit. They gathered rushes, sedges, and thick grasses to create a cushioned mattress that kept their bodies off the cold earth. Wadley noticed that these ancient beds were often topped with a dense layer of leaves from the Cryptocarya woodii tree. This specific plant releases crushed aromatic chemicals that act as a highly effective, long-lasting insect repellent. They were actively combating malaria and skin parasites while they rested. This was not a primitive, miserable existence. It was a carefully designed habitat that allowed the human brain to enter deep, restorative sleep phases. If they could engineer a perfect mattress 77,000 years ago, why do we still struggle with insomnia today? So, let us reconstruct an ordinary night in the deep past. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the savanna in deep shades of orange and purple. Darkness falls quickly, and with it comes a drop in temperature. You do not flick a switch to turn on a light bulb. Instead, your tribe gathers around a central campfire. The fire is not just for warmth or cooking food, it is your ultimate shield against the dark. As the night deepens, people do not all go to bed at the exact same time. This brings us to a groundbreaking study conducted by evolutionary anthropologist David Sampson. He studied the sleep patterns of the Hadza people, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer tribes in Tanzania. Sampson tracked their sleep using specialized wrist sensors for several weeks. What he found completely reframes our understanding of human survival. Out of more than 200 hours of total tracking time, there were only 18 minutes where every single person in the tribe was asleep at the same time. On average, at least 8 adults were awake at any given moment of the night. Someone was always tending the fire. Someone was always listening to the rustle of the bushes. Someone was always watching the shadows for leopards. This is known as the sentinel hypothesis. It means that your ancestors evolved to have different internal biological clocks. The teenagers stayed up late into the night. The elders woke up long before dawn. This variance was not a sleep disorder, it was a brilliant evolutionary feature that kept the group alive. Is your insomnia actually just your ancient hunter-gatherer genes trying to protect your family? Consider the rhythm of the camp as the hours tick by. An older man wakes up at midnight, his joints aching slightly from the day's hunt. He stokes the embers, throwing fresh acacia branches onto the flames to keep the predators at bay. A few feet away, a mother nurses her quiet infant in the warm glow. A young hunter stirs, rolls over, whispers a brief word of reassurance, and drifts back into a deep slumber. This constant shifting tapestry of vigilance meant that the group was never entirely vulnerable. The pressure to stay awake was distributed across the entire tribe. You did not have to worry about a predator sneaking into your tent because you trusted the sentinels. How can your brain feel perfectly safe today when you are the only one guarding your modern apartment? Let us explore how noise affected your ancestors' rest. In the modern world, we demand absolute silence to sleep. A car alarm or a dripping faucet can keep you awake for hours. But on the prehistoric savannah, absolute silence was a terrifying sign. Complete silence meant that the birds and insects had suddenly stopped singing. It meant that a silent predator, like a lion or a leopard, was actively stalking through the grass near your camp. Your ancestors evolved to sleep deeply through the comforting background noise of nature. The wind rustling the leaves, the crackle of burning logs, the gentle snoring of your relatives, and the distant call of nocturnal animals were acoustic signals of safety. When those sounds disappeared, the brain instantly snapped awake, flooded with adrenaline. Today, we strip all those natural sounds away and replace them with an eerie, artificial silence. Is it any wonder that your subconscious mind remains alert, sensing danger in the quiet void of your bedroom? This social aspect of sleep also provided incredible emotional and psychological warmth. Children did not sleep in separate rooms down the hallway, crying into baby monitors. They slept nestled tightly between their parents and elders, feeling the physical rise and fall of their chests. This constant tactile feedback regulated the infant's heart rate, breathing, and body temperature. It created an unbreakable sense of psychological security that lasted a lifetime. Anthropological studies show that co-sleeping was universal across early human communities. The modern practice of forcing a child to sleep alone in a dark room is an incredibly recent, culturally specific experiment that has only existed for a tiny fraction of human existence. We have traded communal warmth for individual isolation, and then we wonder why anxiety levels have skyrocketed. Your ancestors understood that sleep was not an individual chore to be checked off a list. It was a collective act of survival and connection. This brings us to a massive counterintuitive twist. Modern society tells you that waking up in the middle of the night is a medical problem. If you wake up at 3 in the morning, you panic. You look at your phone. You worry about your job the next day. But historically, a solid block of 8 hours of sleep was completely unnatural. Before the Industrial Revolution and the invention of artificial lighting, humans practiced what historians call segmented sleep. You would fall asleep shortly after dusk for about 4 hours. Then you would wake up around midnight. You would spend an hour or two talking quietly, praying, smoking, or making love. After that, you would fall back asleep for a second shift until dawn. Waking up in the darkness was not a failure of sleep. It was an essential part of the human routine. This midnight waking interval was highly valued by our ancestors. It was a time of deep psychological processing, creative thought, and intimate social bonding. People interpreted their dreams, told stories, and shared a calm companionship that was impossible during the chaotic daylight hours of hunting and foraging. The French historian A. Roger Ekirch documented thousands of references to this first sleep and second sleep in historical texts, law codes, and literature. When artificial light arrived, it artificially lengthened the day and compressed our rest into one single block. We traded our natural fluid midnight awakening for an exhausting, unbroken stretch of unconsciousness. Are we actually healthier now that we sleep without interruption? When we force our bodies into a rigid 8-hour box, we fight against our own evolutionary history. Your ancestors slept on the hard ground, covered in animal hides, exposed to the weather, and woke up multiple times. Yet, skeletal remains show they did not suffer from the chronic back pain or stress-induced sleep apnea that plagues modern society. They slept deeply because their sleep matched their biology. Their bodies were synchronized with the natural drop in temperature that happens at dawn, triggering a natural, energetic awakening. They did not need synthetic stimulants or synthetic sleeping pills to regulate their internal clocks. They let the planet do the work for them. Think about the physical environment of an ancient sleeping space. The air is cool and fresh, constantly moving through the shelter or cave entrance. The ground is firm, forcing your muscles to micro-adjust throughout the night, which prevents stiffness and maintains natural spinal alignment. There are no flashing blue lights from screens, no hum of traffic, and no artificial heating keeping the room at an unnatural, stagnant temperature. Your biology thrives on these environmental cues. Your pineal gland produces melatonin naturally as the natural light fades, guiding you gently into sleep without a fight. Why do we expect our bodies to sleep perfectly when we isolate them from every natural cue they evolved to recognize? Tonight, you will turn off your television. You will lock your doors. You will lie down in a perfectly silent, climate-controlled room. And yet, you might still struggle to drift off. You might feel a strange, lingering sense of vulnerability as you stare at the ceiling. Just remember that your brain is simply doing what it was designed to do over hundreds of thousands of years. It is waiting for the sound of a crackling fire. It is listening for the breathing of your tribe. It is waiting to wake up only when your body is truly ready.